My name is Myra Summers. I was 41 years old when my sister tried to take back the son she gave me 19 years ago. She got pregnant at 16. My parents panicked. They said a baby would ruin the family name, ruin Vanessa's future, ruin everything. So they turned to me. I was 22, single, had never held a newborn in my life. I took him anyway, raised him alone, worked 2 jobs his first 3 years, wrapped his Christmas presents in newspaper, sat in every parent-teacher conference by myself. My sister moved to Boston, finished college, earned her MBA, got married twice, and never once picked up the phone to ask about her son. Then he graduated from high school, and my sister walked into that gymnasium carrying a cake. Congratulations from your real mom. What happened at that graduation made my mother cry, made my sister's boyfriend leave, and made 200 strangers stand up for a woman they had never met. Before we start, if you are listening to stories about family and the moments that define us, take a second to like and subscribe. Drop a comment and tell me where you are right now and what time it is. Let me take you back. 19 years. To the night my mother called at 2 in the morning. I grew up in Willow Creek, Ohio. Population 11,000, the kind of town where your neighbor knows your report card before you do, and the grocery clerk asks about your grandmother's hip. My sister Vanessa is 6 years younger than me. She was the baby, the pretty one, the one who walked into a room and made people smile just by existing. I was the other one, the one who set the table, washed the dishes, drove Vanessa to dance class every Tuesday and Thursday, because my mother said it was good practice for when I had my own kids someday. I loved my sister. I want to be clear about that. I loved her the way older sisters do, with irritation and tenderness braided together so tightly you cannot separate them. Our mother, Rita, had a simple philosophy. Vanessa was fragile. Vanessa needed protection. Vanessa was the one you worried about. And I was the one who handled things. The reliable one. The one who did not need checking on because I would figure it out. Our father, Gerald, agreed with whatever Rita said. He was not a cruel man. He was an absent one, present at the dinner table, gone from every conversation that mattered. I was 22. The spring everything changed. I had just finished my bachelor's in education at Ohio State. I had been accepted into a master's program with a full scholarship. I had a plan, a timeline, a studio apartment with a window that faced a parking lot, which I thought was beautiful because it was mine. Vanessa was 16. She was a sophomore. She had a boyfriend named Tyler who drove a Mustang and worked at the movie theater. Then one night in March, our house phone rang at 2 in the morning. It was my mother. I drove the 40 minutes home in the dark. Rita was sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of tea she was not drinking. Gerald stood by the refrigerator with his arms crossed, staring at a spot on the floor. Vanessa was upstairs. I could hear her crying through the ceiling. Rita did not look up when I sat down. She pushed a piece of paper across the table. An ultrasound printout. 4 months along. 4 months. Vanessa had known for 4 months and told no one. Rita's first words were not about Vanessa. Not about the baby. Not about Tyler, who had already stopped returning Vanessa's calls. Her first words were, "The neighbors cannot know." I remember the clock on the wall ticking. 11 minutes past 2. The tea getting cold. Gerald clearing his throat and saying nothing. Rita laid out the options the way a general lays out a battle plan. Adoption. But the agency would require paperwork, and paperwork meant people would find out. Keeping it. But Vanessa was 16. And Rita would not have a teenage mother in her house. "It would ruin everything we have built," she said, as though she had built something more than a front lawn and a reputation. Then she went to the hall closet, came back with a small yellow blanket folded into a square. Baby blanket. Cotton. Faded at the edges. "This was yours," she said, handing it to me. "When you were born." I held it. Soft. Thin from 22 years of storage. It smelled like cedar and dust. Rita sat back down, looked at me for the first time since I arrived. "You have to help," she said. "You are her sister." The next morning, Rita made it plain. If I did not take the baby, they would call an adoption agency by Friday. The baby would go to strangers. Vanessa would go back to school. And we would never speak of it again. I asked the only question that mattered. What about Vanessa? Does she want to keep the baby? Rita waved her hand like I had asked about the weather. Vanessa is a child. She does not know what she wants. Gerald nodded. He always nodded. I looked at Vanessa, who had come downstairs and was sitting on the couch with her knees pulled to her chest. She was wearing a hoodie 3 sizes too big. Her mascara was smudged under her eyes. She looked exactly like what she was, a scared 16-year-old who had no idea what was happening to her body or her life. Vanessa, I said, what do you want? She looked at Rita, then at me, then at the floor. I want it to go away, she whispered. Rita pointed at me. There. You heard her. She has school. She has her whole life ahead of her. She has school. I need you to remember that line. Because I will hear it again. 19 years from now, on the worst day of my life, those 4 words will come back to me in a gymnasium full of 200 people, and they will mean something entirely different. I drove home that night with the yellow blanket on my passenger seat. I had not said yes yet, but I had not said no. And in my family, silence was the same as agreement. 2 weeks later, I called my mother and told her I would do it. I withdrew from my master's program the next morning. Dylan was born on July 14th at 3:17 in the afternoon. 6 pounds, 9 ounces, a full head of dark hair and a scream that could strip paint. I was in the delivery room. Vanessa was there, of course, because she was the one in labor. Rita stood by the door, arms crossed, watching the clock. Gerald waited in the hallway, probably staring at a spot on the floor. The delivery took 11 hours. Vanessa was brave. I will give her that. She did not complain. She gripped the railing and breathed the way the nurse told her to, and pushed when they said push. She was 16 years old and her body was doing something extraordinary, and I watched her face through every contraction and thought, she is so young. When Dylan arrived, the nurse cleaned him and wrapped him and held him out. Who wants to hold him first? 3 people in that room. Vanessa turned her head toward the wall. Rita did not move. The nurse looked at me. I took him. 6 pounds, 9 ounces. His eyes were closed. His fist curled around my index finger and he stopped crying. Just like that. Like he had been waiting for the right person to hold him. The nurse asked who was taking him home. Silence. The longest silence of my life. I am, I said. 3 days later, I carried Dylan into my 1-bedroom apartment on East Willow Street. I had a crib borrowed from a coworker, a box of diapers from the dollar store, and the yellow blanket from my mother's closet. I wrapped him in it that first night. The same blanket that had wrapped me 22 years earlier. It barely covered him, but it was soft, and it was warm, and it was ours. The first year nearly broke me. Dylan had colic. He cried for 4 hours every night between 8 and midnight. I walked circles around my apartment holding him against my chest, humming songs I half remembered from childhood, watching the clock and praying for silence. I was working as a teaching assistant at Willow Creek Elementary, 7:45 to 3:30, then home to a screaming infant. I learned to function on 4 hours of sleep. I learned to eat standing up. I learned to shower in under 3 minutes because 3 minutes was exactly how long Dylan would tolerate the bouncy seat. I called my mother once, at 11 at night, after Dylan had been crying for 3 straight hours. I was standing in the kitchen in sweatpants and a formula-stained shirt, and I was crying too. Mom, I need help, I said. Just for one night, please. Rita's voice was steady. You chose this, Myra. You are an adult. Figure it out. She hung up. Vanessa, meanwhile, moved to Boston for college in August. She had been accepted to a small private school, tuition paid by a combination of scholarships and our parents' savings. The same savings they said could not cover Dylan's pediatrician bills when I asked. In October, a family court in Franklin County granted me legal guardianship of Dylan. The paperwork was straightforward. Vanessa signed the voluntary relinquishment forms by fax. From Boston. During rush week. I filed the papers in a small fireproof safe I kept under my bed, next to the yellow blanket, next to Dylan's hospital bracelet, next to a photograph of him sleeping on my chest at 4 days old, mouth open, fist curled, peaceful for the first time since birth. He was mine. Legally. Finally. Completely. Let me give you the next 5 years in snapshots. Dylan at 1. First steps. He walked from the coffee table to the couch, 3 feet of open air, arms out, grinning like he had conquered Everest. I recorded it on a flip phone that barely held 30 seconds of video. I still have that video. Dylan at 2. Ma was his first word. Not mama or mommy, just ma. Short. Efficient. Like he had already figured out the most important thing and did not need extra syllables. Dylan at 3. I started teaching part-time at Willow Creek Elementary, mornings only, while a neighbor named Patty watched Dylan for $40 a week. Patty had 6 grandchildren and the patience of a geological formation. Dylan loved her. Dylan at 4. He could read. Not just letters, words, sentences. He read the cereal box at breakfast and asked me what riboflavin meant. I had to look it up. Dylan at 5. First day of kindergarten. I stood outside the school gates for 15 minutes after he walked in, just in case. He did not look back. He marched in with his Spider-Man backpack and did not look back. And I was so proud and so devastated at the same time that I sat in my car and cried. No one from the Summers family visited during those 5 years. Not once. No Christmas presents. No birthday cards. Rita called occasionally to ask how I was managing, never to offer help. Gerald sent a check for $50 on Dylan's 3rd birthday. No note. Just the check. Christmas morning when Dylan was 3. Just the 2 of us. I wrapped his gifts in newspaper because I could not afford wrapping paper. He did not notice. He was 3. He thought the comics page was part of the gift. When Dylan was 6, Vanessa called. It was a Tuesday evening. I was making spaghetti. Dylan was at the table drawing a picture of a dinosaur eating a spaceship. The phone rang and the caller ID showed a Boston area code, and I almost did not answer because I thought it was a telemarketer. Myra, it's Vanessa. Her voice had changed, deeper, more polished, like she had been taking classes and sounding like an adult. She did not ask about Dylan, not how he was doing in school, not what he liked to eat. Not whether he still had colic or had outgrown it years ago. She did not ask any of those things. She asked about a car, a 2003 Toyota Camry she had left in our parents' garage 6 years ago. She wanted to know if it was still there. She needed to sell it. I'm graduating next spring, she said, and I need cash for my apartment deposit. I told her the car was probably still in the garage. She said she would call Rita to arrange it. Then she said, "Thanks. Bye," and hung up. 42 seconds. I timed it afterward because I could not believe that was the whole conversation. That evening, Rita called. Your sister is graduating next spring, top of her class, business and marketing. Do not make things difficult for her. I'm not making anything difficult for anyone, I said. I'm making spaghetti. Vanessa graduated summa cum laude from Emerson the following May. Rita drove to Boston for the ceremony. Gerald went too. They had the graduation photo framed and hung in the living room. Professionally matted. 18 by 24. Dylan's first day of school photo was on my refrigerator, held up by a magnet shaped like a ladybug. It was not in their house at all. When Dylan was 8, 2 things happened that changed the trajectory of my life. The first, Willow Creek High School offered me a full-time position as a special education aide, with a path to coordinator if I completed my master's degree. The salary was $43,000 a year, benefits included. For a single mother who had been living on teaching assistant wages and carefully portioned grocery runs, that number felt like a fortune. The second, Dylan asked me a question while I was washing dishes. Aunt Myra, how come I don't have a mom and dad like the other kids? My hand stopped moving. The water kept running. A plate slipped and clinked against the bottom of the sink. He was sitting at the kitchen table behind me, homework spread out, pencil in his hand, looking at me with those dark, serious eyes that were already too perceptive for an 8-year-old. I turned off the water, dried my hands, sat down across from him. Dylan, I love you more than anything in this world. Your birth mom loves you too, in her own way. But I'm the one who's here. I'm the one who's always going to be here. He studied my face. 8 years old and already reading people like they were books. I know, he said. I just wanted to call you Mom, instead of Aunt Myra. Is that okay? I had not cried in years. Not when Rita refused to help. Not when Vanessa called about a car instead of her son. Not when Christmas came and went without a card from anyone. But when an 8-year-old boy asked permission to call me Mom, I broke. He got up from his chair, walked around the table, and hugged me. Small arms, tight grip. He smelled like pencil shavings and grape juice. It's okay, Mom, he said. First time. That night, after Dylan went to bed, I sat at the kitchen table for a long time. I thought about calling Rita, about saying, "Your grandson just called me Mom, and it was the best and saddest moment of my life, and I need you to tell me I'm doing okay." I did not call, because I already knew what she would say. She would tell me not to confuse Dylan. She would tell me Vanessa was his real mother. She would tell me I was overstepping. Instead, I opened the fireproof safe under my bed, took out the legal guardianship papers, read them in the light of my bedside lamp. My name on every line: Myra Lynn Summers, legal guardian; Vanessa Marie Summers, signature of biological mother; relinquishing all custodial rights; notarized, stamped, filed with Franklin County. Underneath the papers was the yellow blanket. I had kept it folded in the safe since Dylan outgrew it at 5. He used to carry it everywhere, to the grocery store, to bed, to the bathtub. It was frayed at the corners and missing a quarter of its original stitching. It smelled like baby shampoo and years. I was still holding it when I heard a small knock on my door. Dylan stood there in his dinosaur pajamas. "Mom, I can't sleep." "Me neither," I said. He climbed into my bed, saw the blanket in my hands, reached for it. "That's my baby blanket," he said. He had not seen it in 3 years. "It was mine first," I said, "before it was yours." He took it from me, studied the frayed edges, then he folded it carefully, too carefully for an 8-year-old, and placed it back in the safe. "We should keep it safe," he said. "It's important." It was. More than he knew. I told Dylan the full truth when he was 13. We were sitting on the porch on a Sunday afternoon. He had been asking questions for months, not direct ones, but circling questions. Why did Grandma Rita always introduce him as Vanessa's son? Why was there no record of his birth in our family photo albums? Why had he never met Tyler? So I told him. All of it. I told him about the phone call at 2 in the morning, about Rita's ultimatum, about the yellow blanket and the 40-minute drive home in the dark. I told him that Vanessa was 16 and scared and not ready. I told him about the facts, about the legal papers, about the fact that his biological mother had not called, written, or visited in 13 years. I did not editorialize. I did not say Vanessa was a bad person. I did not say Rita was wrong. I just told him what happened, in order, the way it happened. Dylan listened without interrupting. When I finished, he stood up, went inside, and closed his bedroom door. He did not come out for 2 days. On the 3rd morning, he appeared at the kitchen table, already dressed for school. I had made scrambled eggs. He sat down, picked up his fork, ate 3 bites. Then he said, "I'm not angry at her." "At Vanessa?" I asked. "At any of them. I'm just sad for her. She missed everything." He went to school. I sat at the table for another 20 minutes, holding a spatula, not breathing properly. Dylan did not stop calling me Mom. He did not ask to meet Vanessa. He did not ask to call Rita or Gerald. He just continued being 13. Awkward, brilliant, growing 3 inches that summer. And he continued being mine. While I was raising Dylan, Vanessa was collecting accomplishments. MBA from Northwestern, marketing director at a boutique agency in Chicago by 28, corner office, company car, the kind of career that photographs well on LinkedIn. She also collected marriages. The first lasted 2 years. His name was Brett. I never met him. The second lasted 14 months. His name was Marco. I never met him either. Each time Vanessa got divorced, Rita called me, not to ask how Dylan was doing, not to tell me about what Vanessa's son had scored on his math test or that he had made the honor roll for the 4th time in a row. She called to tell me not to add to Vanessa's stress. "Your sister is going through a hard time," Rita said after divorce number 2. "She doesn't need judgment from anyone right now." "I haven't spoken to Vanessa in 3 years," I said. "Good. Keep it that way. Let her heal." My sister got married twice, divorced twice, and neither time did she send Dylan a birthday card. July 14th came and went, year after year, and the mailbox stayed empty. No card, no call, no text. The post office knew my address. She just did not use it. Meanwhile, I completed my master's degree. It took me 4 years of night classes while working full-time and raising Dylan. I graduated when Dylan was 8. No one from my family attended my graduation either. Claire Reeves, a colleague who had become my closest friend, sat in the 3rd row and cheered loud enough for 10 people. I became the special education coordinator at Willow Creek High School the following year. No one called to congratulate me, but that was fine. I had stopped waiting for that phone call around year 4. The Thanksgiving when Dylan was 15 was the first time I brought him to my parents' house in years. I do not know why I agreed to go. Maybe I thought things had changed. Maybe I wanted Dylan to have the big table holiday experience at least once. Maybe I was tired of pretending the Summers family did not exist. We drove the 40 minutes to Willow Creek. Dylan wore a button-down shirt he had picked out himself. He was nervous. I could tell because he kept adjusting his collar in the passenger seat mirror. The house was full. Rita had invited cousins, an aunt, 2 neighbors. The table was set for 14. Turkey, mashed potatoes, green bean casserole, a normal Thanksgiving, the kind you see in movies. Rita met us at the door. She hugged Dylan, brief, performative. Then she walked him into the dining room and introduced him to a cousin he had never met. "This is Vanessa's son, Dylan." Not Myra's son, not our grandson who Myra has been raising single-handedly for 15 years, not even Dylan, just Vanessa's son. Dylan's hand found mine under the table. He squeezed. 15 years old, and he understood the dynamic better than anyone in that room. Gerald carved the turkey. Rita poured wine. No one asked Dylan about school, about his grades, about the science fair project that had won 2nd place at the state level. No one asked me about anything at all. After dessert, Rita cornered me in the kitchen. "It was nice of you to bring him," she said, loading the dishwasher. "Vanessa would be glad to know he's doing well." "Then maybe Vanessa should ask him herself," I said. Rita gave me the look, the one that said, "You are being difficult again." We drove home in silence. Dylan broke it first. "I don't need to go back there, Mom." Dylan's junior year was when I realized he was not just smart. He was remarkable. Straight A's since freshman year. AP classes stacked 3 deep. Debate team captain. Volunteer tutor at the community center every Saturday morning. His teachers stopped me in the hallway to say things like gifted and exceptional and, "Have you considered early college admission?" I had considered nothing except making sure he ate dinner every night and had clean clothes for school. Everything else, the grades, the ambition, the quiet discipline, that was all Dylan. His college counselor called me in for a meeting in October. "Dylan is on track to be valedictorian," she said. "His essay is one of the strongest I've read in 20 years. I asked what the essay was about. She slid a printed copy across the desk. The title was centered at the top in 12-point Times New Roman, "The Woman Who Chose Me." I read it in the school parking lot because I could not read it in front of another human being. I sat in my Honda with the engine off and the windows up, and I read every word. He wrote about the night I brought him home from the hospital, about the yellow blanket, about learning to ride a bike in the parking lot of our apartment complex because we did not have a driveway, about the Christmas mornings with newspaper wrapping paper, about the night he asked to call me Mom and I cried. He wrote, "Biology is an accident. Love is a decision. My mother made that decision every single day for 19 years, and she never once asked for credit." I sat in that car for 20 minutes before I could drive. The parking lot emptied around me. The sun went down. I held that essay against the steering wheel and I let myself feel every single year. 2 months before graduation, Dylan showed me the group chat. He came home from school on a Wednesday and set his phone on the kitchen counter, screen up. "Mom, you need to see this." It was a family group text. Rita, Gerald, Vanessa, Aunt Patrice, Uncle Dale. Someone had added Dylan to the thread by accident, probably Rita, who could barely operate her phone on a good day. The messages went back 2 years. I scrolled through them sitting at the kitchen table while Dylan stood by the window, arms crossed, watching me. Rita, 14 months ago. "When Vanessa is ready, she will take Dylan back. Myra is just keeping him for now." Vanessa, same thread, 3 days later. "Give me a couple more years. I'm getting my life together." Gerald. Thumbs up emoji. Aunt Patrice. "Poor Vanessa, she's been through so much." Uncle Dale. "Myra should be grateful she got to have a kid at all." I read every message, twice. My hands were steady because they had to be. The kitchen was quiet except for the refrigerator humming. 2 years. For 2 years, my family had been discussing the return of my son like he was a borrowed lawnmower, like I was storing him temporarily until Vanessa was ready to pick him up. I set the phone down, looked at Dylan. "Why didn't you show me this sooner?" "Because I didn't want you to lose them," he said, "even though they don't deserve you." 17 years old, standing in my kitchen, protecting me from my own family. I did not call Rita. I did not call Vanessa. I did not scream or cry or throw anything. I went to the bedroom, opened the fireproof safe, and checked the guardianship papers. Every page, every signature, every notarized stamp. Then I closed the safe, and I went back to making dinner. If you have ever been the one everyone leans on but nobody thanks, if you have been the reliable one while someone else got the applause, then you know exactly what this feels like. Hit that subscribe button and stick around. Because what happens at graduation is something I still cannot believe Dylan had the courage to do. That night, after dinner, Dylan and I sat on the porch. "Why didn't you tell me when you first saw the messages?" I asked again. He was quiet for a while. Crickets filled the silence. "Because you would have confronted Grandma," he said. "And then she would have cut you off completely. And even though she doesn't treat you right, I know you still love her. I didn't want to be the reason you lost your mom." I wanted to argue. I wanted to say that Rita had lost the right to be called my mom years ago, but the truth was more complicated than that, the way truth always is when it involves family. "Dylan, you and I are a family. We have been since the day I brought you home. Whatever they think, whatever they plan, it does not change what is legally and actually true. You are my son." He nodded. "I know. I've always known." I did not confront anyone. I did not forward the screenshots. I did not post them online or send them to a lawyer. I did not do any of the dramatic things you might expect. What I did was quiet. I opened the fireproof safe under my bed. I checked every document. Guardianship papers, valid. Voluntary relinquishment, signed and notarized. School enrollment records. My name on every emergency contact line for 19 years. Medical records. My signature on every consent form since his first vaccination. I also found the yellow blanket, folded in the corner of the safe, faded, frayed, smelling faintly of something I could no longer name. I held it for a moment. Then I put it back and closed the safe. If they wanted a fight, the paperwork was ready. But I was not going to start one. 6 weeks before graduation, Rita called with news. She did not ask about Dylan's valedictorian announcement. She did not ask about the ceremony or whether she should bring anything. She called to talk about Vanessa. "Your sister has met someone," Rita said, the way people announce lottery wins. His name is Harrison Whitfield. He's in real estate. Very successful. Very traditional. He wants a family, Myra. A real family. I leaned against the kitchen counter and listened. Vanessa told him about Dylan, about how complicated things were, about how the family situation forced her to make a difficult choice. What choice was that? I asked. You know what I mean. The choice to let you help. Let me help. That was how my mother described 19 years of solo parenthood. Letting me help. Harrison is very moved, Rita continued. He thinks Vanessa is brave. He wants to meet Dylan. This could be Vanessa's chance, Myra. Her chance to finally have everything she deserves. Her chance. Not Dylan's chance to know his biological mother. Not a chance for the family to heal. Not a chance for you to finally get some recognition. Vanessa's chance. That was the phrase my mother used. The graduation of my son, the child I had raised for 19 years. And my mother saw it as an opportunity for Vanessa. Harrison doesn't know the full story, does he? I said. He knows what he needs to know. He doesn't know she signed away her rights by fax during rush week. Silence. Then. Do not ruin this for her. I hung up. Went outside, sat on the porch steps for 30 minutes, watching the streetlights come on one by one. Fireflies, lawnmowers in the distance. Dylan came out with 2 glasses of water, sat next to me. Grandma called? He asked. Yeah. About Aunt Vanessa? She's not your aunt. I know, but it's easier. 3 weeks later, Dylan came into the kitchen holding his phone. She messaged me. I was grading papers at the table, red pen in hand, stack of IEP reports. He turned the screen toward me. Instagram direct message, from an account with a professional headshot and 4,000 followers. Hey, handsome. I know this is out of the blue, but I'm your bio mom. I've thought about you every single day. I would love to meet you. I'm coming to town soon. Followed by 3 heart emojis and a smiley face. I read it twice, set down my red pen. Looked at Dylan. He was watching me the way he always did when something important was happening. Quietly, carefully, measuring my reaction before forming his own. What do you want to do? I asked. I don't know. What should I do? That's your decision, Dylan. Not mine. He sat down. Thought about it for 2 full minutes. Then he typed a reply. Short, polite, cool. Hi, thank you for reaching out. I appreciate you thinking of me. No, Mom. No heart emojis. No, I'd love to meet you. Just a surface-level acknowledgement that a message had been received. Vanessa replied within 90 seconds. Can't wait to see you at graduation. I'm bringing someone special I want you to meet. Dylan read it. Then he locked his phone and put it face down on the table. I thought about Vanessa at 16, signing papers by fax from a sorority house, and Vanessa at 35, typing, I've thought about you every single day, with 3 heart emojis. Same person, same avoidance, different font. She has school. I've thought about you every single day. 2 sentences, 19 years apart. The first was at least honest. 6 weeks before graduation, the school made it official. Dylan Summers, valedictorian, class of 2026. I got the call from the principal's office on a Tuesday morning between 2nd and 3rd period. I was in the middle of an IEP meeting for a student with dyslexia. I excused myself, stepped into the hallway, and listened to Principal Hendricks tell me that my son had the highest GPA in a class of 312 students. He'll give the valedictorian address at the ceremony, Hendricks said. 5 to 7 minutes. He can choose his own topic. I thanked her, hung up, leaned against the hallway wall for a moment. A sophomore walked by and asked if I was okay. I told her I was fine. I was better than fine. That evening, I told Dylan. He smiled, the quiet, contained smile he had inherited from no one in the Summers family because it was entirely his own. I already started writing the speech, he said. Can I read it? Not yet. You'll hear it at the ceremony. For the next 6 weeks, I heard him practicing behind his closed bedroom door. Reading out loud, pausing, rereading. Sometimes I heard silence that lasted 5 or 10 minutes, And I knew he was rewriting something. I bought a new dress for the first time in 3 years. Claire helped me pick it out. Navy blue, simple, comfortable enough to sit in a plastic chair for 2 hours. Claire said I looked like I was going to a state dinner. I told her I was going to something better. Dylan ironed his own shirt. He had been ironing his own shirt since he was 14. I taught him. He was better at it than I was. 2 weeks. Then 1 week. Then 3 days. The ceremony was coming, and so was Vanessa. The phone call came on a Thursday evening, 9 days before graduation. Rita's number. I almost let it ring. Almost. Vanessa will be at the ceremony, Rita said. No greeting. No small talk. She's bringing Harrison. They're flying in from Chicago. Fine. Do not make a scene, Myra. I have never made a scene in my life. Good. Because this is an important day. For Vanessa. I held the phone away from my ear and stared at it. An important day. For Vanessa. Not for Dylan, the one graduating. Not for me, the one who had helped him with homework every night for 13 years. For Vanessa. The one who was flying in with a new boyfriend to perform the role of mother for an audience. She's bringing a cake, Rita added. Something special. To celebrate. That's nice, I said, because there was nothing else to say. I hung up, sat on the porch. It was May. The air smelled like cut grass and magnolia. I could hear the neighbor's sprinkler clicking. After 15 minutes, Dylan came outside with 2 glasses of lemonade. He sat down next to me. We drank in silence for a while. She's coming, I said. I know. With Harrison. I figured. Are you okay with that? He set his glass down on the porch railing, looked at me with those dark, steady eyes. Mom, I have been okay for a long time. I was okay when I was 8 and asked to call you Mom. I was okay when I was 13 and you told me the truth. I was okay when I read the group chat. And I'm okay now. He stood up, squeezed my shoulder. She can bring whoever she wants. She can bring a cake and a banner and a marching band. It won't change anything. He went inside. I stayed on the porch until the sun went down. Graduation morning. I woke at 5:30. Could not go back to sleep. Made coffee. Sat at the kitchen table listening to the house breathe. Dylan's cap and gown were hanging on the back of the dining room chair. Navy blue. Gold tassel. I had picked them up from the school office 3 days ago and pressed them with the iron on low heat, a damp cloth between the polyester and the plate, the way my mother taught me to iron when I was 10. Dylan came downstairs at 7. Showered, shaved. He had been shaving for 2 years now, though there was barely anything to shave, and dressed in a white button-down and dark slacks. How do you feel? I asked. Hungry. I made eggs, toast, orange juice. We ate in comfortable silence. The morning light came through the kitchen window and hit the salt shaker just right, throwing a small rainbow across the table. Can I see the speech? I asked one more time. You'll hear it, he said, from the 3rd row. After breakfast, he went to his room to finish getting ready. I washed the dishes, dried them, put them away. Then I went to get dressed. When I came back downstairs, Dylan was standing in the hallway adjusting his cap in the mirror. I noticed something in his hand. Small. Yellow. Folded. The blanket. The yellow baby blanket from 19 years ago. Frayed edges. Missing stitching. He was tucking it into the inside pocket of his vest. He saw me watching, held my gaze in the mirror. For good luck, he said. Then he smiled. I did not ask anything else. I picked up my car keys. Claire was meeting us at the school. The gymnasium was 20 minutes away. It might as well have been a courtroom. The gymnasium at Willow Creek High School holds 400 people. That day, every seat was taken. Rows of plastic chairs on the gym floor. A small stage at the front with a podium, a microphone, and a banner that read, Class of 2026. The school orchestra was tuning in the corner. 3 violins, a cello, 2 flutes, and a kid with a tuba who looked like he wished he were somewhere else. Claire and I found seats in the 3rd row, left side, close enough to see the podium. Close enough to see Dylan when he walked across the stage. I smoothed my dress, placed my purse under my chair, folded my hands on my lap. Then the double doors at the back of the gymnasium opened. Vanessa walked in like she was entering a gala. Emerald green wrap dress, auburn hair in loose waves past her shoulders, heels that clicked on the hardwood. Smile wide enough to be seen from the stage. Harrison was beside her. Gray suit, silver watch. Salt and pepper hair combed precisely. He carried himself the way men with money carry themselves. Shoulders back, chin level, surveying the room like he was considering purchasing it. Behind them, Rita and Gerald. Rita wore a floral blouse and lipstick she only put on for special occasions. Gerald wore a tie that did not match his shirt, and in Rita's hands, resting on a plastic tray with a paper doily underneath, a cake, white frosting, pink lettering, the kind you order from a grocery store bakery with 24 hours notice. Congratulations from your real mom. 200 people in the room, families finding their seats, students lining up in the hallway, and my mother was walking down the center aisle carrying a cake that claimed my son belonged to someone else. I did not move. I did not speak. Claire reached over and took my hand. Before the ceremony started, Vanessa made her move. She walked straight to the staging area where the graduates were lining up. Security did not stop her because she smiled at the volunteer parent at the door and said, "I'm Dylan Summers' mother." And technically, biologically, she was not lying. I watched from my seat as she found Dylan in the line. She hugged him. A full, theatrical embrace, both arms wrapped around him, head tilted for maximum visibility. Dylan stood rigid, his arms stayed at his sides. Harrison hung back, observing. Rita beamed from 3 rows behind me, cake balanced on her lap. Then Vanessa turned. She walked toward me, heels clicking, smile locked in place. She stopped at the end of my row and leaned in, close enough that the people behind us could hear. "Myra, thank you so much for taking care of my son all these years. You have been an incredible babysitter." She paused, placed her hand on my shoulder. "But I'm here now. I'll take it from here." Babysitter. 19 years, 4,000 school lunches, 300 parent-teacher conferences, 11,000 bedtime stories, 16 years of homework help, 19 Christmas mornings, 19 birthday cakes that I baked myself because bakery cakes cost $40, and that was a week of groceries. Babysitter. I did not respond. Not because I could not think of what to say. I had 19 years of things to say. I did not respond because I saw Dylan watching us from the staging area. He was standing very still. His jaw was tight. His eyes were locked on mine. And in those eyes I read a message as clearly as if he had spoken it aloud. Wait for me. So I waited. The ceremony began at 10 o'clock sharp. Principal Hendricks welcomed the families. The school orchestra played something classical that nobody recognized. The superintendent gave a speech about futures and possibilities and the importance of community, which lasted 12 minutes and contained no fewer than 6 sports metaphors. Then the graduates began crossing the stage, one by one. Name called, diploma received, handshake, smile, photograph. 263 graduates in alphabetical order. Vanessa had moved to the second row, directly in front of me. She had her phone out, recording. Every time a student crossed the stage, she lowered it. When someone named Samantha Ruiz walked across, Vanessa leaned to Harrison and whispered something. Harrison nodded. He looked comfortable. He looked like a man who believed every word his girlfriend had told him about her past. Rita sat at the end of the row with the cake on her lap. She was guarding it like it contained state secrets. Gerald sat beside her, hands on his knees, staring straight ahead. I sat in my chair with my hands folded. Claire was next to me, her phone in her purse, her attention on the stage. She was the only person in that gymnasium who knew the full story. The group chat, the facts, the 19 years. Summers, Dylan. I heard his name and everything else disappeared. The gymnasium, the crowd, the cake, Vanessa's emerald dress, Harrison's silver watch, all of it fell away. Dylan walked across the stage, tall, steady, cap perfectly straight. He shook the superintendent's hand, received his diploma, and looked down at me in the third row. He winked. Then he walked to the podium. Because the next item on the program was the valedictorian address, and every person in that gymnasium was about to learn who Myra Summers really was. Dylan adjusted the microphone, cleared his throat, unfolded a piece of paper. "Good morning," he said. His voice was clear, calm, projected the way I had taught him when he was 12 and doing his first book report presentation. "Graduates, families, faculty, thank you for being here." He started with the expected material: freshman year disorientation, the cafeteria mystery meat, that one substitute teacher who showed movies for 6 weeks straight. The crowd laughed. Vanessa laughed loudest, her hand on Harrison's arm. He talked about what Willow Creek had taught him, about the teachers who stayed late, about the janitor who knew every student's name, about the librarian who kept a secret stash of granola bars for kids who came to school hungry. He was good, natural, warm without being sentimental. The audience was with him. Then he paused. He looked down at the paper in his hands, studied it for 3 seconds, 5. Then he folded it. Carefully, deliberately, the way he folded the yellow blanket when he was 8. He placed it on the podium, and he began speaking without notes. "I've been planning this speech for 6 weeks," he said. "I wrote 9 drafts, but I realized this morning that the most important thing I want to say isn't on any of those pages." The gymnasium got quiet, the particular kind of quiet that happened when 200 people simultaneously realized something unexpected was coming. Vanessa was still smiling. She leaned forward slightly. Her phone was recording. She thought he was about to talk about her. I could see it in the way she straightened her posture, the way she squeezed Harrison's hand. She was preparing for her moment. She had no idea what was coming. "The person I want to thank most today," Dylan said, "is not a teacher, not a coach, not a friend. It's a woman who was 22 years old when she was handed a newborn baby and told, 'This is your responsibility now.'" The gymnasium was silent. She had never changed a diaper. She had never heated a bottle. She had just been accepted into a master's program with a full scholarship, and she gave it up. The next morning. Without hesitation. He paused. Let the words settle. She moved into a 1-bedroom apartment and figured it out. 4 hours of sleep a night for the first year. Teaching assistant salary. Dollar store diapers. She wrapped my Christmas presents in newspaper because she couldn't afford wrapping paper. Somewhere in the back of the gymnasium, someone sniffed. A mother, probably. Someone who recognized the bone-deep exhaustion in those details. She went back to school when I was 5. Night classes. 4 years. She graduated with a master's degree in special education, and nobody from her family came to her ceremony. One friend sat in the 3rd row and cheered loud enough for 10 people. Claire squeezed my hand so hard I lost feeling in my fingers. She helped me with homework every night for 13 years. She taught me to cook, to do laundry, to shake hands firmly and look people in the eye. She taught me to iron a shirt and change a tire and write a thank you note by hand. She came to every parent-teacher conference, every school play, every awards assembly. She never missed one. Vanessa was no longer smiling. Her phone was still recording, but her hand had dropped to her lap. She was looking at Dylan with an expression I had never seen on her face before. Confusion, then recognition, then fear. Dylan looked directly at me. 3rd row, left side. "She is not the woman who gave birth to me," he said. "But she is the woman who chose me, every single day, for 19 years, without asking for anything in return, without complaining, without quitting." His voice did not crack. His hands did not shake. He stood at that podium with the composure of someone who had spent 19 years learning composure from the most composed person he knew. "Her name is Myra Summers. She is my mother." The gymnasium erupted. 200 people clapping, some standing, a few wiping their eyes. Claire was crying openly. The orchestra teacher in the corner was dabbing her face with a program sheet. Principal Hendricks, standing by the stage steps, pressed her hand over her heart. I could not move. I sat in my plastic chair with tears running down my face, and my hands folded in my lap, exactly where they had been for the past 45 minutes. Except now, they were shaking. Vanessa sat 2 rows ahead of me. She had stopped clapping. Her phone was in her lap, still recording the ceiling. Harrison was looking at her, then at me, then at Dylan on the stage, then back at Vanessa. Rita sat at the end of her row. The cake was still on her lap. "Congratulations from your real mom." The pink lettering facing outward, visible to everyone around her. Except now, those words meant something entirely different. Because 200 people had just heard Dylan Summers name his real mom, and it was not the woman on the cake. I looked at my son on that stage. He looked back at me, and he mouthed 2 words that no one else could see. "Thank you." If you are still here, you already know this is not just a graduation story. It is about who earns the title of mom. If you have ever held someone together when nobody was watching, this one is for you. Like, subscribe, and stay with me. The ceremony ended. Families spilled out onto the grass. Graduates hugged classmates. Cameras clicked. The afternoon sun was warm, and the air smelled like fresh-cut lawn and cheap cologne. I was standing near the oak tree by the parking lot when Vanessa found me. She came fast, heels sinking into grass, mascara already smudging at the corners. Harrison trailed behind, hands in his pockets, mouth pressed into a thin line. "What was that?" Vanessa's voice was sharp, loud enough for the cluster of parents nearby to turn around. "What did you tell him to say?" "I didn't tell him anything." "You coached him. You turned my own son against me." Dylan appeared behind her, still in his cap and gown, diploma in one hand. "Nobody coached me," he said. His voice was even, quiet, the voice of someone who had rehearsed this moment in his head for years. "I wrote that speech myself." Vanessa spun toward him. "Baby, I'm your mother. I gave birth to you. I carried you for 9 months. And then you signed a piece of paper and faxed it from a sorority house," Dylan said. "During rush week." Vanessa's mouth opened, closed, opened again. "Grandma told me once that you had to go because you had school," Dylan continued. "And you did go to school. For 19 years. You went to school and to a career, and to 2 marriages, and to Chicago. And that's fine. But you don't get to walk into my graduation with a cake that says real mom and pretend those 19 years didn't happen." He looked at Rita, standing 10 feet away with the cake still in her hands. "And Grandma, you said today was Vanessa's chance. But this is my graduation, not her audition." Harrison stepped forward. He had been silent for the entire exchange, watching with the careful attention of a man who builds deals for a living and knows when the numbers do not add up. "Vanessa," he said. His voice was low, controlled. "You told me the family situation was complicated. You told me you were forced to give him up. That's the word you used. Forced." Vanessa wiped her eyes. "Harrison, it was complicated. Did you sign away your parental rights voluntarily?" "I was 16. "Did you sign voluntarily?" The people around us had stopped pretending not to listen. A parent with a camera lowered it. 2 graduates nearby turned to watch. Vanessa looked at Rita for rescue. Rita stepped forward, reaching for Harrison's arm. "You don't understand our family." Harrison moved his arm away. He looked at me. Really looked, for the first time. "You raised him? From birth?" "Yes," I said. "Alone?" "Yes." He turned back to Vanessa. His jaw was set. His eyes had changed. The warmth was gone, replaced by something cold and precise. He did not say another word to her. He straightened his jacket, adjusted his watch, walked across the grass to the parking lot. I heard his car start, a clean, expensive sound, and watched it pull out of the lot, past the school sign, past the gymnasium, and down the road toward the highway. Vanessa stood in the middle of the lawn in her emerald dress with her auburn hair catching the sunlight, and she watched the only man who had ever made her want to be a mother drive away. Because he had just learned that she never was one. The cake sat on the grass where Rita had set it down. Nobody had touched it. Nobody ever would. In the silence that followed Harrison's departure, something shifted in Rita's face. She was looking at Dylan. Not at Vanessa, not at me. At Dylan. Standing there in his cap and gown, diploma in hand, yellow tassel brushing his shoulder. Her grandson. The baby she had given away to me 19 years ago with a yellow blanket and an ultimatum. Her eyes were wet. Her lower lip trembled. For one single moment, maybe 3 seconds, maybe 5, I saw something in my mother's face that I had never seen before. Regret. Actual, unfiltered regret. She opened her mouth, and I thought, this is it. This is the moment she apologizes. This is the moment she says she was wrong. This is the moment 19 years of silence breaks open and something real comes through. Myra, she said. I waited. If you hadn't poisoned him against his own mother, none of this would have happened. And just like that, the moment was gone. The wet eyes dried. The trembling lip set itself into a firm line. The regret, if it was ever regret, collapsed back into the fortress of righteousness that Rita had been living inside since before I was born. Gerald stood behind her, quiet as ever, staring at the grass. He had not said one word since arriving. Dylan looked at Rita. His expression was patient. Not angry, not contemptuous. Just patient. The way you look at someone who cannot hear you no matter how clearly you speak. Grandma, he said. No one poisoned me. I'm 19 years old. I have eyes. I have ears. And I have 19